Good evening once again. So I must say the fireside chat was clearly fiery. So let's move on to the next panel discussion. I will now request Captain Prabhat Nigam, Director in the Chutkara University, Ms. Tejashree Kishore, Assistant Manager Fleet Care, Captain Arvind Shankar, Culture and Capability Manager at MERS FMT, Ms. Pooja Chawla Gandhi, Executive Director, Main Resources India Private Limited, Mr. David Bidwadkar, Advisor Head, the Great Eastern Institute of Maritime Studies, Lonavala, Lieutenant Commander Anu Prakash, the Indian Navy. Some important instructions for the panel discussion. This panel discussion will be again for 60 minutes with 10 minutes. Could I have your attention, please? Ladies and gentlemen, could I have your attention, please? Yes, thank you. Just a few instructions. As a previous panel was, 60 minutes per session with 10 minutes Q&A. We will sound the bell at 30 minutes and at 50 minutes into discussion. We request the audience to please write their questions and with their names and keep the question very brief and address the person on the panel whom you want to ask the question. Now I hand it over to Captain Prabhat Nigam to begin the session.
Namaste to one and all present over here. Can you please reciprocate? Namaste. Thank you. And namaste to all the dear panelists sitting with me. Namaste. Namaste. Well, the topic of panel discussion is career opportunities for women in maritime. What I've observed, the topic has already been spoken on. They have already discussed this topic. So I will start with a new approach. Instead of funnel to tunnel, I'll start from tunnel and go to funnel. So here we have the head of a Pre-Sea Maritime Training Institute, Mr. David. And then we have Captain Arvind, who is representing Maersk with their cadet training program. Next in the sequence is Ms. Tejashree from Fleet, and she is into engaging the women seafarer. We have Pooja, who is into alternate employment opportunities other than seafaring, onshore. And we have Lieutenant Commander Anu, who will tell us something about what is happening in the defense forces. Let's start with you, David. Sir, what challenges do you feel a woman is facing when entering in the pre-sea maritime training?
Thank you, Prabhat. Thank you, Captain Chadda and Marex for a wonderful event. It's going really well, and I can see it just gathering pace till we get into the finale, which you're all waiting for. So thank you, and thank you for the question, Prabhat. So to look at it from the Maritime Training Institute point of view, there are several challenges, obviously. One is increasing awareness among the girls who are coming out of colleges, and why and how it can be a good career, why and how it can be safe for them, how they can progress. So that awareness is something which has to be done in a very, very large scale, a very, very huge scale. We are trying our best, but I think the acceptance level for the moment is not there, because people are scared and skeptical that so many days out at sea, and as everybody perceives it as the man's job, which is still a reality that is being thought about in that sense. So, and I know that the girls who have been successful maritime professionals, they have done it because of their own passion. I don't think there are very many who have done it with the support or encouragement of their parents. Probably they said they want to do it, so they have done it. So I think it is also important that the parents are made more aware, or they are the ones who accept that this is a profession where my girl can go out there, be safe, be good, and she will be a wonderful, I mean, she'll make a success of her life and a profession. So that is something which I think has to be done on a ward scale rather than just look at enlightening it to the girl students coming out of colleges. So that is something which is a challenge. Then after that, when we have them come to the institutes, there is another challenge there because the faculty members, as we all know, and it's a reality, that they are closer to 60 rather than 40. So with that in mind, the mindset is a little old-timer. They have been on all men's ships and they have considered it to be a men's job, as I keep saying it. So with that, it becomes difficult for them to envisage a girl cadet and, you know, the comfort level and how they can make her feel comfortable and how they can teach her. See, something which I see as a head is a reality. So the awareness, again, there has to be increased manifold to make sure this happens. Then again, amongst the cadets themselves, you know, when there are 5, 6 girl cadets and the rest 35 in a batch are all boys, then they have an issue that, you know, they like to do their boy things, their boy jokes, and the girls, they feel left out because they would want to make their own groups. And if there are 2, 3 girls, then they feel left out and they have to be just among themselves. So it becomes a little challenging for them because, I mean, how much can they just concentrate on the career and the education? They are in the campus day in and day out, so they need some recreation or some friendship and camaraderie. So that is something which, again, with awareness has to be increased. So because ultimately, if that doesn't happen, then they are going to be that less comfortable. And how will they preach to others that, okay, it's a good profession, or I was very happy doing it, you know? We have exception, of course, but it seems to be a rule more than the exception. Lastly, the institutes or the companies themselves needs to encourage it. And how they can do it, like MTT, we know, gives a 1 lakh donation per cadet. So that is there, but still we know that the fees for a course is almost 6, 7 lakhs, and some of them come from very modest beginnings. So with that, if the colleges give some more grant, or the companies who are going to sponsor the cadets give some more, you know, benefits, then again that will influence and encourage the cadets to join. Further, I know there are companies who encourage the girls that the norms for the entrance is not the same what they would want for the boys, so they are a little lenient. They say, okay, except medicals, if they are a little lax in their competency and they can pick up later on, they're fine with that, so that they have more and more girls coming in. And I know there are such companies who exist. So if that can also be looked at as a reality, so that we get in an influx, and you know, then I'm sure later on they can always pick up and be on par with the rest of the officers there. So I think these are some of the challenges, and these are some of the thoughts which I have where we can improve this or encourage girls to join more and more. Thank you.
Thank you, David Saab. Well, you have also touched upon the socio-cultural hindrances and barriers which are there. Having said that, and it has been discussed in the previous panel, where we all agreed that Maersk has initiated a path-breaking program. Captain Arvind, would you like to tell us something more about this Maersk Women Cadet Training Program?
Thank you, Captain Nigam, and thanks to Mr. Chadda, Delphine, and Dr. Radhika for this fabulous program.
You shouldn't say sorry. He is Captain Chadda.
Okay, Captain Chadda. Thank you for that. All right. So last year, around this time, we pioneered with the Women Cadet Program at Maersk. The concept of this came together when we were sitting as a team, and we identified that we have only 7% of our cadet pool, which we recruited in the previous year as women. So we deep dived into finding out what were the barriers for entry. So we did a survey with cadets across India, and we zoned it down to 3 critical challenges. And the Women Cadet Program is set out to challenge this status quo and to create a psychologically safe environment. By psychologically safe, I hope you all understand it is to be able to speak up. Though it seems like a bare necessity, like a human right, you should be allowed to speak up. It's not really the case with the environment, even in our office culture sometimes. And to create equal opportunity. So the first pillar of this was infrastructure. There were not enough hostel facilities. Hostel facilities the recruitment was based on the hostel facilities rather than having enough hostel facilities and then see how many people can take up the course. The next one was about cultural changes, cultural sensitization. So I think a lot of you spoke about gender sensitization in the previous panel. That is something which the DGS has also come up with DGS Order 123. We also realized that we need to sensitize the faculty with this gender sensitization. This links a lot to the equal opportunity which we present to our women cadets. How would you feel if you were two cadets and one cadet was always given the load-bearing job and one cadet was always given the creative job? I'm not even using a gender here. We should be able to see an audience of students, especially homogeneously. And it takes training and it takes time to build this capability, especially when your faculty, like David sir had said, has predominantly been looking at males. So when you add females to the audience, then they stand out. So we should be able to see them homogeneously. So that was some of the cultural aspects. Also, capability building for the students to speak up. I don't think anybody can talk, can say that there is an environment where zero harassment takes place. If you believe that, let me tell you, most of the women who face harassment have either accepted that is part of their job to face that level of harassment, or they don't speak up because they don't want to, they also don't know how this will end. So when you have a case like that, we want to build capability in our audience, whether it is the bystander like Aparajita ma'am had said, or the students, to speak up against harassment. What constitutes harassment? Each of us has our own line. What constitutes harassment for me might not be what is harassment for another person. And this is why we need to build capability in the boys to understand this as harassment. The last one, of course, is vigilant administration. We need robust policies, though maybe this should also be centrally driven down, that all MTIs do it together. Robust policies for a fair and confidential trial to take place. It takes a lot of guts for a woman to speak up that an incident of harassment has taken place, and that the last thing that you want to hear is to say that, ye chalega, this is part of the nature of the job. And I'm saying this because I've heard it from the horse's mouth, or actually shouldn't say horse's mouth, from the person itself. So this is the three core principles of the Women Cadet Program. And of course, like Sir said, we need to change our hiring practices. We need to break biases among the recruiters. We need to reach out to the grassroots level. So we reached 3,000 students. We went to 40 different schools across India, pan-India. In the recent last 2 months, I've had a lot of schools coming to us and saying, can we visit your school? And I've had up to more than 600 students visit our campus to see what does the Shippen campus, interact with our students, simply wowed by what is happening. And almost at least in a week, I get at least 2 parents and with their daughters visiting us to find out what the course is about. Is it safe? What happens when they want to plan their family life, etc. There are a lot of questions around. We should work together and answer these questions. We could have it in the DGS website if possible, maybe a landing page for women with answers to such things. And of course, we need role models. If you ask any of the cadets in my school, they would tell you Captain Radhika Menon and of course Reshma Nelafar. This would be the 2 names that they identify. Is it because we don't have other people who have excelled in this role? We need to share these success stories. Right from when they're 3rd officers, fourth engineers. Right from then, we need to share these success stories. Yeah, so that's what this Women Career
Yeah,
Program
thank
is
you,
about.
Captain Arvind. Some disruptive changes for sure we can see happening. Well, like the 5 titles of MLC, I'm lucky that I have 5 panelists with me. We started with the pre-C, we went to the cadet program, he has put them on the ship, and now the process of putting them on the ship. Tejashri, can you throw some light on how you engage women for the ship and how you monitor them?
Thank you very much, Captain Nigam, for the question. I would like to begin with great thanks for the wonderful organizers. And I would say in my entire career with the shipping industry, this is the first time where I see more women than men. As to so far, it has only been men. So, thank you for the question once again. How can we support the women in shipping? As companies, I think we have to create a safe environment for them, a more inclusive environment where we not just sit down with them and listen to their problems, but we have the scope of empowering them and supporting them. So when we in fleet get a female officer or a junior, we have straight from the cadet and TME levels who join fleet. And we are very happy to have them because they are super out of the university and very excited for their careers, where they get to travel and explore new places. And they know at the back of their mind, this is a male-dominated industry, but they choose this opportunity to go out there and dominate that industry. So we have that enthusiasm in there from the beginning. And we as a company have to hold on to that and make sure that we encourage this enthusiasm to build more leaders of tomorrow. We don't want the female seafarers to be specific, to be leaving the industry after they become second officer or third engineer just because they've had a child and they chose to start a family. We have to support them, we have to encourage them, and we have to show them that there is a tomorrow for them. After a childbirth, also they can come back. If they choose, they probably can have an office job to understand the know-hows of how things work in the office. And that's extremely valuable even at a cadet level, irrespective of the gender, to know how an office works. So you get a little more confidence when you go on the ship and you know the people that you can reach out to. So in Fleet, we have a dedicated department called as Fleet Care. And we have our Fleet Care liaison managers who are coming from various backgrounds, from aviation, from hotels, from hospitality. And we know how aviation is known for the care and the conflicts that we have on the aircraft is like you may enjoy the stories when you hear from someone else, but only we, as I've been a cabin manager on an airline, an international airline. And I know what I have been through when I've had to solve those conflicts. And every day you solve a new conflict, you feel more empowered that me, being the youngest cabin manager in that company, I can do this. I'm leading a team with many seniors also. There are juniors rather older in age, but I feel I'm confident to lead a team. And it's all about good teamwork. So coming back to what Fleet Care does is empowering these ladies when they join the company. We have a sit down with them. We brief them about how the career can progress for them within the company. And we have a dedicated liaison manager. So when a lady officer joins the ship, she has someone to reach out to at office. If there's any scenario where she feels that she is uncertain of how to deal with this, or maybe she is not getting enough support from the subordinates or the seniors, which is hardly the case because we have proper gender sensitization training given to the entire ship's crew where the lady officer is joining. But there can be some differences, and because you join the ship with a bias that, okay, I might be treated differently because I'm a lady officer, but that may not be the case. It might just be a misunderstanding. So we are there to support that. We are there to clear that out and to empower them. It's not just for the new officers, but it can be lady officers, it can be for the male officers also. We understand of so many grievances that are coming, that I was treated badly, I was not recognized, and maybe my ideas and thoughts are not respected because I'm new. And what can we do as a company? We can only empower them, encourage them, and guide them through the right path. So that's something as a shipping company that shipping companies can do, can come forward, and it cannot just be a single company or a couple of companies, but it has to be an industry-wide collaboration we all, we are known to so many people. Why don't we be the ambassadors of this industry? It's a wonderful industry, I would say, coming from aviation. Shipping has been thriving throughout the ups and downs the world has seen so far, and I believe it will continue to do so. So let's spread the word and get more and more lady officers as well to join the industry. And yeah, that's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Tejashri. Well, gentlemen and ladies, कहानी शुरू हुई थी डेविड साहब से when we brought the women seafarer into the Pre-Sea Maritime Training Institute, and then Captain Arvind gave us the wonderful women cadet training program. Tejashri gave us the process of looking after them and engaging them on board ship. But we have been hearing, and also in the fire chat, that how many of them make it to the top? How many women go and become captains and chief engineers? Some of them, due to several circumstances, be it domestic, be it other pressures from marital pressures, they quit. So, Pooja, I would like to ask you, what alternative shore jobs are there for women who want to leave seafaring and go into maritime, still stay in the maritime sector, use their experiences and help ashore?
Thank you, Captain. It's a pleasure being here and an honor to be at this dais with all these people and sharing the views about all the different kinds of things that we can do to empower women. Just to give you a small brief, everybody here on this platform has been talking about seafaring, cadets, people on board the ship and the difficulties that they've been facing. A short background of myself, where I'm coming from and why I have the experience to talk about this. I own an engineering company where we supply parts and components for the material handling industry. So that means we supply to all the ports, steel mills, and all kinds of male-dominated industry. So when somebody asks me, what do I do? The answer that they expect me to give every time is interior designer, fashion designer, jewelry designer. And when I turn around and tell them, no, I have an engineering company and I supply parts and components for cranes and material handling industry, they turn around and tell me, what are you doing in this male-dominated industry? And I'm like, I guess I'm one of the few who's here who wants to change it and who doesn't want it to be a male-dominated industry. I want more and more women engineers to come on board, because whenever I walk into a meeting in a port where there are 30 men in the boardroom, in the conference room, and I'm the only woman standing there giving my presentation, either they are in awe of me or they are wary of me. So basically, they don't know how they're supposed to treat me, because I should not be knowing all this. I should not be knowing the parts and components of cranes. But I do. I'm not an engineer by profession, please. I'm really not. I have a great engineering team, men and women, who support me. But they are in awe. They wonder how am I talking and walking in and talking to 30 odd men. Another thing that I have faced in the ports, which Ms. Chaitali brought up, and I must also, because when I heard you, I said this is something that I relate to, is I walked into a port. I don't want to name the port. I walked into the port and I have been there from 8 in the morning. It was 1:32 and we had gone to check and inspect a crane. And I needed to use the washroom. And I was like, can I use the washroom? And all the engineers are staring at each other and looking at each other's face. So I'm wondering, what is the issue? Why can't I use a washroom? So I asked him, is there a problem? And he said, ma'am, we don't have a ladies' washroom. So I said, okay, so don't you have any woman here? A receptionist, an admin person, some unskilled worker, where do they go? Saying, ma'am, we have no one here. And I said, so now, I mean, it was something that was a shocker to me. And it is something, this happened around 6 to 7 years ago. And it was a major shocker for me that they did not have a ladies' washroom in the port. And luckily for me, the general manager was sweet enough to offer his personal washroom to me. And of course, I took him on it. But I must say that I brought it to the notice of the general manager and all the people there. And the next time I went back to the port, after a couple of years, of course I was going in between, but the next time I went to that port, there was a ladies' washroom. And I was very happy. And I went back to meet the general manager to thank him and tell him, I really appreciate this gesture, and I hope you have more women now on board. Not just for the washroom, but I just hope you have more women on board. So looking at all this, since the past 17 years that I've started my company, I feel that we really need to have more women, not only on board the ships for your cadets as your engine workers and everything, but we need them more offshore as well. Onshore as well. That's in the ports, in the industry, where they can also be a part of the management, operations, shipbroking, chartering, instructors, engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, operators. I think there's a dearth of women there. So these are all the different kind of opportunities that we can look at for women. And I would really hope that these kind of forums are put forth out on YouTube, on the internet, and everywhere where women hear this and know that if they are doing an engineering degree, they don't necessarily have to work in some big corporate and stay in the city or something. But they should have the ability to apply to these kind of jobs in ports, in 2-tier and 3-tier cities, where they can at least try and work there by empower women. And we can really do this only by putting forth all this through the internet, through the universities, and educate them. That's the most important part. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja. कहानी अभी खत्म नहीं हुई है दोस्तों, किस्सा अभी बाकी है. You want one question? Okay, so we have a lady, Lieutenant Commander Anu, over here with us. Can you throw some light on what is happening in the defense services as far as engaging women are concerned? We know there are all the 3 defense forces have a lot of women now. So just throw some light and tell us about what is happening in the Indian Navy.
Thank you, Captain Prabhat, and thank you, organizers, for giving me this honor and opportunity to come and present my view in this forum. Before I tell you about Indian Navy, few years back, in 2011, if I am not wrong, obviously I'm not wrong, when I joined Indian Navy, there were very few branches wherein women officers were allowed in Indian Navy, namely logistics. Aviation has currently started, so I started my career as Indian Naval Operation Officers, and I had flown more than 1,000 hours on the maritime domain, and I must have questioned many of the merchant navy captains regarding where you are coming, where you have been. Obviously, that is my job, to keep the maritime domain safe. And so it was all for 10 years of my life, whereafter Indian Navy gave an opportunity for the women to become seafarers. And I grabbed this golden opportunity, and now for last 1 year, I have been sailing on board Indian Naval warship. And coming to that, sailing on board a ship, yes, all ships are the same. Regarding washroom, women don't need much. They require a washroom, a separate washroom. That is all. We don't need parity. We don't need that you give us different stretcher or some special treatment. All we require is a washroom, some privacy. That is all. And women are capable of doing what they are doing right now.
Thank you. And I believe that bell was for opening the question rounds? Yes, okay. So thank you, panelists, and let us wait for the questions from the audience. And I cannot see any hands. So, okay. I know sun is down and people are waiting for bar to open.
I have a difficult task to do, maximum of 3 questions, please.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Captain Vaibhav Dalvi from HIMT. Last 3 sessions, most of our discussion has been on sensitization, doing something voluntarily, and there are great examples like Maersk and some of the other companies. What about the enforcement part? Unfortunately, we don't have anyone from administration here, I'm not sure. But any suggestions from the panel on what could be done on the mandatory part to start with? Thank you.
Are you directing the question to anyone? Or?
It's to the panel,
Okay,
open
then
to
I'll
panel.
answer.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll give it to you. Basically, let us go back to the very grassroots level. Democracy by the people, of the people, for the people, right? To start it from our own homes. We have to have a cultural change. We don't have to say कि लड़की है तो उसको ऐसा करना पड़ेगा और लड़का है तो ये करना पड़ेगा. So we cannot straight away say government क्या कर रहा है. Always when we have a solution at home, we have in our society, and from the society it comes to where we work, our workplace. Yes, you want to say something? Add?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Of course, I think all of you are familiar with DGS Order 123, which is talking about this, the gender sensitization requirement for pre-C as well as post-C courses. So the training is going to be implanted in that. Now the environment at the MTI, the ecosystem MTI. So the MTT, the Maritime Training Trust, has actually appointed me as the project manager, as well as Dr. Aparajita. She is also working on this project. So we are designing a module for gender sensitization of faculty, management, and the support staff. Support staff as in apna canteen workers, drivers, etc. Everybody in the ecosystem which has a touch point with the cadet. See, the cadet is coming from their home into a new ecosystem. We want to create that sense of respect. We want to create that psychological safety. Who is the first person who's going to create that? It's all of these people, everyone, including your warden, your cleaners, your sweepers. And why we are targeting this audience is because most of these audiences have their own cultural understanding of what is right. While the management is saying women empowerment, their cultural maybe know-how or their learning is protect the girls. Don't let them talk to the boys. Don't let them wander around in the night. This is not what the management wants them to do, but this is their cultural understanding. But this has a cascading effect on the students. They feel that why are only the girls being told कि jeans पहन के जाना है बाहर for surely, whereas the policy in the college says जाओ, come back before 2100. That is the rule. But the watchman says नहीं jeans पहन के जाओ और वापस अंदर जाओ. So this is all part of the gender sensitization which we are working on. We expect to deliver the first prototype. Actually, HIMT is one of the colleges which is working together with Dr. Malini Shankar from IMU. So we are working on this and we expect the first modules to be delivered by July. And post that, once we present it back to the DGS, it should become a circular coming forward. So that is how we can close this.
But do you think this 12 hours of gender sensitization or 6 hours of gender sensitization class, which the module has been made mandatory now, is good enough to change? A boy comes to pre-C or girl comes to pre-C at the age of 17, and this 12 hours will change the mindset?
No, that's actually a very good question. So we are working on an awareness level. We are not going to completely change this environment. This is the awareness level. And that first day onwards, the first moment onwards when you're stepping from school to a college life, you're coming as a new person itself, right? The environment around you is how you are going to be in that campus, regardless of how you were.
So the ecosystem is very important. The ecosystem, from the environment from where you're coming, and whether that ecosystem is geared up to accept this change. I don't think so. Yes, your question, please.
I'm sorry, did I interrupt? Okay. I have a question for ma'am. This is because a lot of times I work as a pilot, a lot of times your leadership style gives a lot of, raises eyebrows. So we are a nation which told the Supreme Court that the defense is not ready for taking commands from a woman. This happened in 2020. It was in the newspapers. Now, from there to you now becoming a commander. How is your leadership style and how do you balance between being bossy or aggressive or assertive? How does that balance?
Thank you so much, Captain, for your question. I would say there is a change. As you all know that Agnipat's coming in, we are having entry in even in the sailor cadre. So the first batch of Agnipat, they have passed out and they are presently in their professional schools. And I am presently posted on board INS Kochi as a first lieutenant. I am I'm deputy to the 2IC on board ship. And men are taking orders. They don't have two way about it. It's the rank they see, what I feel. It's not whether it's a woman or a man. It's the rank that matters. And being at that seniority, if I tell someone that things needs to be done, they have no two way about it. I think that is how in defense forces people are brought up. That or follow the order. If in doubt, follow point one. It's it's very individual.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And I'm an assertiveness trainer, so yeah, we designed this program in 1997 for people to practice the ISM code, and without assertiveness, ISM doesn't work. But my question is specifically, it goes on the earlier session to this, something just came to my mind. I've just become a grandfather. I'm an 11-month-old grandfather. And I've seen a wonderful way my daughter, who's a surgeon, manages her mother and mother-in-law. And she does a fantastic job. She just had 6 weeks of maternity leave. And she travels a lot, being part of the American Urology Association. She has traveled a lot. And her baby is looked after by mother and mother-in-law and alternatively. My question is, are we sensitizing female seafarers how to deal with their mother and mother-in-law so that their family can be looked after?
That was, I believe,
Father and father-in-law is
Captain
gone.
Achyutan, I think I'll take it in a lighter vein. I don't think so it's a question. We'll take it in a lighter vein. Radhika, do we have any more questions?
I may just add that I am mother to a 4-year-old boy, and he is very well looked after by my in-laws and my husband, who is also a seafarer. He's a navigation specialist. So when both of us are sailing, he's looked after by my mother-in-law, and I think there should be a compromise by the lady side also. So just on a lighter note, yeah.
One last question, please, from ma'am.
Can I just add something before that? Okay. So actually, we spoke about role models in Radhika and Nilofer, but I think we have forgotten a role model without the captain. Sonali Banerjee is here. She's a marine engineer who has done exceedingly well as a role model. I think we cannot forget that. And I think there's one more point which I wanted to highlight is that when we talk about gender sensitization, I think it's misconstrued as giving additional privileges to the women on board. I think all they want is that they be allowed to do their job the same way as the men folks are doing it. So it's like if she's a chief engineer, then people obey it as they say or follow the orders. Or if they're second engineers, she does the job and everybody else cooperates and she does the job. So no concessions. Of course, we know there are little biological issues or whatever else are there. But apart from that, they just need that people should support or allow them to do their job. It's not to be construed at giving them concessions while doing the particular responsibilities. Thank you.
So one last question from ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Thank
then
you.
we close the discussion.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Rishali from Manet. And this gender sensitization course, which is started, As sir said rightly, that is awareness, it's not complete transformation. But don't you think that is the trainers who are training the cadets for this sensitization course, they should be trained first, because if they have their bias, then that will be percolated in different way to the cadets. So the trainer should be trained first. That's what I want to say.
Are you referring to the trainer who's taking this sensitization training?
Yes.
Yes. So for that, our program right now has a SME panel of one psychologist, one sociologist, one person who's doing social work, and of course a panel of seafarers.
She's talking about train the trainer.
So this is all of these together work together with the psychologist. Actually, Dr. Aprajita is our facilitator. So they have, and she has got in-depth knowledge of the maritime industry and has worked closely with cadets and seafarers of various ranks. So she brings all those values into this training session, and she is going to execute this session. So does that answer your question? So the faculty is already sensitized?
Yes, sir.
And I also hope that that lengthy text which is given on the DG website is changed, because that has been outsourced, written by some people outside the country. Okay. We are talking about, if we are talking about gender sensitization in India, I think it should be written by an Indian who knows Indian culture. Lot of examples in that, I have read the whole thing, is related to some cases in Europe or America.
Very
but we should talk about India. So if your team is doing that work in India, kudos to that, and let's clap for it.
Thank you.
Thus we come to an end of an enriching panel discussion. I would like to invite on stage Captain Amol Athale, Principal of MIT ADT University, Manit, to felicitate the panelists and moderators, and thereafter I request him to speak a few words, sir. So we have with us from left, Mr. David Birwadkar. Thank you, Mr. David. Next, we have Ms. Tejashree Kishore. Thank you, Ms. Tejashree. Ms. Pooja Chavda Gandhi. Captain Arvind Shankar. Lieutenant Commander Anuprakash. And our very own moderator, Captain Prabhat Nigam. So I request the panel to hold back for a group photograph. Thank you very much. I request Captain Amol to speak a few words.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Captain Amol Athale, a principal of Manit, Maharashtra Academy of Naval Education and Training, Pune. We have been all talking about awareness and women empowerment. About 30, 40 years when many of us probably over here had joined, I doubt if we had imagined that very soon ladies would be in this profession. I was just trying to imagine like oiling those wires of the cranes and derricks. And now, after so many years, we are seeing this fantastic change. It's great to see the women coming into our industry and thereby we accepting the goodness of theirs, the expertise and skills that we probably don't have. We were also just informed by one of the pilots of the airlines who mentioned that the skills that the lady or the women pilots have is probably much better than the men pilots. So that's wonderful to note on that. Secondly, while we were saying that we require more women to come into this field, for that, I would say the starting point is that we require maximum number of students. It could be both boys and girls, but the more students that we have appearing for the exams and cracking the exams and getting into the MTIs, that would create a better pool of cadets, and thereby we can also get more girl cadets. Having said that, I would like to, I'm pretty proud to say that Manet has the maximum number of girl cadets in all the MTIs. And on that note, I would like to thank a few companies who have really been taking our girl cadets and even the boy cadets also, like C-SPAN, WSM, Maersk very much, BMW, MMSI, and I thank them for their selection of the cadets and standing behind them very strongly. We are specializing the training of the girl cadets at Manet and are looking also to make MOUs with any companies for future selection of the cadets. And we train them specifically as per the requirements of that company. Having said that, I would like to thank all the women here for this wonderful celebration of the International Women in Maritime. Thank you very much.